You're listening to Inner Monologue.
Seekers, passengers, citizens of Starship Earth, welcome to another episode of the Rise Podcast, Inner Monologue, where mental health begins with mindfulness. I am your host, Thomas Brown, the Arthur Joseph Curry of Mental Health and Mindfulness. This week's guest is Randall Green. Randall is a soon-to-be author, and he's a world traveler, and he's an interesting dude. Very, very interesting, and I highly respect his love for travel. I think traveling is very, very important. It's one of the last rites of passage that we have, positive rites of passage in this life, and he is fantastic at it. I'm going to let him talk about it, but it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain, hard to get into it because there's so much to the idea. And the book that he's writing right now, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let Randall do that for you. All right? My first of many conversations with Randall Green. I've been working on my book for like 6 years. And like I keep George Lucasing it.
You know, there's so many things that happen that are signs. Like even if something goes good or something goes bad, it's like, this is why you should finish it. You just need to finish it because you can't. I'm gonna do a big writing session after this, hopefully. I'm gonna go to a coffee shop.
Well, how long have you been writing? When we first talked, I feel like the book has evolved after like some conversations with Mr. Reed Blakey.
I definitely have a new angle. Because I think as you do, I love doing research projects, by the way, and you know, having multiple degrees, like that was always fun. Like, you know, as you start off with such a broad information, and as you go into it, it starts, you know, it's kind of like when you get your degree as a bachelor, it's a wide subject, but then it ends up being so specified as a master's or doctorate. And I find that's happened with the book, is as I'm going, it's like, you know, there's becoming a fine direction, and it was before. It was just the art of traveling by yourself. Now it's going to be smart and solo. So not only just traveling by yourself, but how to do it efficiently, how to do it great. Are you recording already?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Look, he's sneaky on that. Okay, well, I would have known. I would have sat closer. Okay. That was sly of you to do that. Okay. By the way, your laugh is so contagious on yours, too, as well. So,
well, that's the only reason why people laugh at it. It's not that it's funny. It's just a laugh.
So now it's becoming focal. The focal point now is smart and solo, and it's for the people who want to make travel a lifestyle, who want to, you know, cut out their Red Bull so they can save $100 on the next flight. And it's for that. It's for people who appreciate travel and want to live that lifestyle, is what it is.
So Reed was talking about your book. Is there a thread in your book with traveling to all of the Major League Baseball stadiums?
I don't know if I'll mention it in there. It's definitely been a goal for a while.
Because that like is a book of its own.
It is. It is.
Travel and sports.
It is. I'm only 14 of 30 so far. I'm doing 15 in 2 weeks in Washington, D.C. I'll be there.
You're 14 of what?
Of the there's 30 total baseball stadiums, and I've done 14. So I got, you know, a long way to go, but I love doing that as well because it's the only sport where the actual field of play is different. Basketball, there's a set dimensions, football set dimensions, but baseball, you got a tall wall in Boston. You've got a fountain in Kansas City. You've got ivy-covered walls in Chicago. Every place is different. San Diego is built into a huge building, so it's just a great experience.
So, like, we're going to bounce around because there's so many different things. I think we both have, like, that kind of energy where we just go and attach onto an idea and go and then find another one.
I think intelligent people can do that.
So, just name off the 14 you've been to.
I can go in tiers as well. So the bottom tier is the ones that I didn't love. First and foremost, Chase Field, Macon Ballpark. Most of the California stadiums, Oakland Alameda is horrendous. Anaheim is like weird sight lines. People walk in front of you constantly. Dodger Stadium is not great, but there's so much tradition behind it that it gives it a bump up.
If you could have a time machine, would you like to go back and watch the Brooklyn Dodgers?
I should have worn my Brooklyn Dodgers hat. I just bought one. Yeah, I would, because Jackie Robinson, one of my heroes. So I would love to see that. Other ones that I like, Coors Field is nice. Minnesota Target Field's nice. Sky Dome in Toronto, Rogers Center. It's massive and it's artificial turf. So, you know, most of the time when they have a grounds crew come in and sweep during like the third and the seventh inning, in Toronto, they sprint from the left field. The announcer comes on and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest grounds crew," and they sprint because there's no dirt, and they just sweep the base real quick and then sprint off. So it's kind of gimmicky. It's massive, but there's a hotel built into it, and I like it way better than Chase Field. Wrigley was cool, but the best ones I've been to, Fenway. I went there in June. It's just remarkable.
It was raining on you too, right?
Yeah, seats like this, like little foldable seats you would see in church, but it's cool. It makes it neat, and loved it there. Comerica, because I'm a Tigers fan, loved there. Safeco in Seattle. Retractable roof, but the wind can blow in on the side, so you don't get that stuff you're feeling. And then Petco in San Diego is the only California stadium that's great, and it's
Did you not like Wrigley?
I liked Wrigley, but
it's old. It's beat up.
Travel, music are two things that feelings impact it immensely, and how you feel. When I walked into Fenway, it was goosebumpy. Wow, this is amazing. Wrigley, when I walked in, I didn't have that feeling.
Yeah.
So, and you might walk there and have a different feeling, and I think that's all.
I think it's just I grew up like back in the day. You had HBO, MTV, and WGN.
WGN. Yeah.
So
don't forget TBS. You get Braves games on TBS.
Yeah, but that came a little bit later.
Yeah.
And like early cable, and we didn't have a baseball team here, so it was like I grew up as a Cubs fan. So
yeah.
Just being there, I was like, oh my God, like nostalgia. That was all.
There's nostalgia, but.
And I never saw a game there. I just went there on like, hey, we're not in the postseason, so come and take a tour of Wrigley Field.
It's just weird. It didn't do anything for me, and it's just like music in other places. Some places, my favorite city in the world is Paris. Love it, but a lot of people will say the same things. They'll say it's dirty, it's too packed, the traffic's bad, this and that. People are rude, and yeah, accurate. But when I was there, I just felt different. So when I was at Wrigley, I didn't have that feeling for whatever reason.
I don't know how to explain it. It's something that's more of like a felt knowledge, but definitely when you are in a city, there's a character of the city, there's a flavor of the city, there's a presence, and you can resonate with that. Like in all the places that I've been to, and these are kind of contrasting places, but Manhattan and Portland, Oregon are two cities in the U.S. that like, it just feels like an old friend. Would you say that that's like when it comes to travel that you have that connection?
I would agree with that, and I think also that it's also what we want to be. Throughout kind of my love for education and everything, I've always kind of liked the aristocratic aspect. So that's Paris, that's London. So I think a lot of places we like because that's what we relate to, and also maybe deeper inside that's what we want to be.
Desire. Yeah.
And Portland, I felt like it was an old friend too. Portland was great. Got the Voodoo Donuts. I went there just in March. Greatest basketball game I ever went to, by the way. The Blazers game. Rip City was great. And Voodoo Donuts was great. Everyone there is a little uneasy when it comes to their homeless population because they're as liberal as they are. They're like, we allow it, we love it, but it's taking over a little bit in some places.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely parts like where you're walking or driving by and there's just like tents set up.
And especially alongside the hills as you drive in the city, they're just all in there because that's kind of like unclaimed territory on land.
And it's still like it's like public city, but like still like it's really like open and liberal to it.
And you ask them all about it, and they smile. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're accepting," but you could see kind of deep down they're pushing the boundary a little bit. And
we haven't fully embraced gentrification yet.
Yeah. I like Portland. I judge any city on would I live there or not. Portland, I would. I was in Dallas for the first time in June, and growing up and born and raised in Arizona, I couldn't take the heat in Dallas.
Yeah, it's because it's an extra layer of humidity.
It's kind of how it's been the past couple of weeks here, but
yeah,
that's how I pretty much rate any city.
Well, I mean, when it comes to like Texas in general, like Austin.
Yeah. Austin was good. Austin's got a little Portland in it.
Yeah, it's got some weirdness. When did you first catch the bug for traveling, and how do you describe what that bug is? Part of me is like, it's kind of like, and I don't say this in a bad way, but like there's an element of it that is very adjacent to like novelty junkie. Because it's new, fresh.
Someone once asked me, what would it be a perfect day? And I said, going someplace new with people I've never been before and doing something new.
Yeah, totally.
That would be a perfect day. Just learning something new, being somewhere I've never been, and just soaking up new experiences. When did it first happen? Within the last 5 years. It's not something I've been doing my whole life.
I feel like you've been traveling a lot, though.
Within the last 5 years. Prior to that, it was maybe that once every 6 months deal. But it's only been now where it's now a lifestyle where, like I said, I don't care about other things, and I want to just strictly focus on it. I think it was, like for a lot of us, when you searching for new things, searching for the answers in life, maybe negative experiences kind of made me want to just say, I got to go find something new. So I think at the time there was one where it was kind of a rough patch. I'm like, I got to go somewhere. So I was like, I'm going to Spain, and that was the first one. And it was about 5 years ago. But I think deeper rooted though is that my mom's from England, so I have dual citizenship. So
You just said mom.
I'm slowly trying to. That was on purpose.
I love it though.
I'm slowly trying to work on having that accent because I think I would like to live there one day. But I think it's deeper rooted on that, so I think I have appreciation of it. But it just didn't blossom until the last few years. And now I'm looking at flights every single day of my life now. And I've got. I'm always thinking, where can I go next? And I'm actually tomorrow. I'm going to Mexico tomorrow, and then
Mexico City, or
I'm going to Puerto Penasco tomorrow.
Right on. So where have you been so far? Let's start with in the United States.
24 states, I think. 24, 25. How many have you been? You've been more than that. You've been.
No, I feel like I'm right there too. Okay. Like I have a lot of North Central.
What do you count, by the way? When you're tallying these all up, what is your definition of being
layover?
There?
Doesn't count.
Now, what if my count is a meal. If you have enough time to have a meal, that counts.
That totally counts.
Yeah. So if you have a layover,
like if you get out of the airport, and unless in the airport there is a local franchise that is only specific
like Chicky and Pete's in Philly.
Yeah.
See, and just by you saying that, we all have our own definitions of what it takes. I have this weird thing to where I guess you're right. You already psychoanalyzed me in the things that are novel. I'll do these weird things where
did I?
I didn't realize it. Where I just want to tally it up another number, almost like get a notch on my belt. So if I'm at an airport and it means going out of the airport to say that you've been to that country, well then I'll walk outside, stand there, and breathe in the air, and then walk back in, and then been to Germany. And I do that. I did that literally when the last time I was in San Diego. I said, I've never been to Tijuana. So I went with a bunch of people, and everybody was driving back, and I drove across the border real quick because I'd never been. Drove for literally 5 minutes, took a picture, and it's Tijuana. And then it took me an hour to get back through, but I'm glad I did it. Like I do things like that. Like I will go if I'm at a country and the next country's 20 miles away. I will take the bus. I'll take whatever it is and hang out for a minute and then come back.
That's awesome.
I'd rather say I did it. I did that in Monaco. I wasn't there long. First of all, you can't afford to be in Monaco long, but I don't know. I'm all about just.
Do you have to pay to even get into the country of Monaco?
Man,
you're on a time limit. You got to pay this much money an hour to be here. We don't want any
richest percentage of millionaires live there, and they don't allow their Monacans to go into the casinos. It's crazy. It's
like an elitist country.
It is extremely elite. They had all the Lamborghinis out front. I didn't go in. I was dressed like this, basketball shorts, everything. So I didn't go in. I would like to go back, but you can't go with a little bit of change. You got to go like you want to do it. It's Vegas it's like the Vegas of Vegas.
Well, let's do the countdown real quick. I want to do it. I think that's important. We can go back and forth too. United States. Where have you been?
Okay. Well, luckily enough, I have an app.
Of course you do. You're efficient.
I have an app called Bean, Been, and I'm showing Chris now, Thomas Chris, and it's got two different things. I need
to get that app.
I still will probably always call you Chris.
That's okay. I wouldn't force you to.
Oh, I was thinking of something on the way in about how you and I know each other, and you have your circle, I have my circle, and those circles have always kind of run parallel, but and we have you have a lot of things that are different, and I have a lot of things that are different. But the things that we have in common are in the Venn diagram that goes over are why I've always loved talking with you. I'm not quite on the same level, comic book and everything as you, but you and I both had an hour-long conversation after one of the Star Wars movies. And it went from it was a conversation that meandered every way, left and right, and kind of like we're doing now. But I've always enjoyed that, and so
I think we always we have we orbit each other, and we have pretty long orbits, and they'll go out for a while, and then boom, we come back and we meet each other again. Yeah. I like that. So I'm gonna have to get that app after.
Yeah, this app that I'm showing it's called BEN, Bean, and so I've been to 46% of the United States, and you just mark out where you've gone. So mostly West Coast. A little bit Midwest.
You got some spots. You haven't been to New Orleans?
New Orleans and Nashville are the two, number one and number two on my list that I haven't
Okay,
been.
that kind of surprises me.
Yeah. Well, they don't have a baseball team. So, honestly, baseball has got priority when it comes to the United States.
Right on.
And then secondly, the United States doesn't even have priority anymore. Like my ticket from here to Boston for my upcoming trip to England, it costs more money than my trip from Boston to London.
Wow.
So a lot of times when I'm planning a trip, it's like, cool, I could go to New Orleans, or for the same price, I could go to Dublin. And that, easy answer.
There's a lot of places that we both haven't been to, like the northeast,
Yeah.
and then like north central.
Yeah.
Some places like
I think most Americans have skipped the North Central.
And I feel like, especially, yeah, totally. Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, there's like a lot of like good like camping and stuff that I think would be awesome to see.
Alaska, I'd love to go there. Hawaii, it's never just been an interest, I think, as a single guy. It just doesn't do anything for me. I'd like to go to the South. I want to go everywhere. There's not a place in this world I don't want to go.
Yeah.
And my dad's side of the family, Mom's from England, but Pa is from southeastern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, and Tennessee area.
So I noticed you haven't been Nebraska.
Not yet.
Kansas.
Not yet.
I've often, after like traveling through and seeing, that's the thing that you get to like learn like the influences. Where I feel like, so like Denver, I would say is like
Denver's great.
The gateway, depending on what direction you're going, either into the Southwest or the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And like both of those kind of like flavors collide right in Denver.
Yeah. There's a crane every 20 feet. They are building nonstop over there. I had a great time in Denver. Did the Red Rocks thing, and it was fantastic.
With big cities being like the major influence centers, I would say like Chicago is the primary influence of the Midwest.
Yes.
And like like when you're in cities like small towns and stuff that have some cultural flavor to them. When I say that, I say like their music scene, their art scene, stuff like that. A lot of it throughout the Midwest. After being in Chicago, like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get where that's coming from.
I made it a point to just also explore Arizona. Born and raised here, but I feel I don't know a lot about it. So the last time I went to California, I stopped in Quartzsite just randomly. I looked at the High Jolly tomb. The High Jolly was this camel. Who was it? Jefferson Davis created this. They wanted to see how camels would adapt in the desert in Arizona. So Jefferson Davis created this little camel testing center. So all these camels were in Quartzsite, and then it ended up, I don't know if they ran out of money or whatever. Maybe they just let them loose. But there's a tomb where it just represents, and then the small little almost like Boot Hill cemetery outside of Quartzsite. So I make it a point like now. Like you said, when you just travel through, to just stop and see those things.
Yeah.
It took me 15 minutes, just pulled off and looked, and now I can say.
And Arizona is a beautiful state.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like natural beauty here.
Yeah, and it's amazing how social media has impacted tourism. The number one most Instagram geotag place in Arizona. There's the top two. One is this Sky Harbor Airport, because people are usually traveling and be like, great weekend here, or blah blah blah. But number two is a place that 20 years ago, again, born and raised here, I'd never heard of. And it wasn't until, because it's a small little place off the road, but it wasn't until filters and pictures, people are like, no way, that's great. But number one, Horseshoe Bend.
Yeah.
And a free place that there's
the obligatory like sitting there with like big hat, and like from behind.
Look,
take this picture for me.
Look, I've been skydiving and I like doing daring things, but when it came to sitting on the edge of Horseshoe Bend, no thanks, man.
Yeah.
That thing is there's no guide rails, nothing. I mean, I was as far away.
Is there like a parking lot for it, or you just park on the side of the road?
It's small, and there's no big signs. You blink, you miss it. You turn off, you park, and then it's about maybe a 10-minute walk, like a slight uphill, and then it's just there. And
wow.
I guess it's 100 feet deep. I mean, it's
to your doom.
I stayed way away from.
Where in outside of the country have you been to?
Okay.
You haven't been to Hawaii or Alaska?
No, I remember saying like it doesn't do Alaska. Yeah, I'd love to go to, but it doesn't really do as much for me as far as Hawaii, like being a single guy. Unfortunately, for most of my travels, it's North America, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica. I'm gonna put North America, and the rest has been Europe. And then a whole nother conversation we could spend an hour on is what constitutes a country. For instance, is Taiwan a country? Well, people in China would say no. Well, people in Taiwan would say yes. Like,
Yeah.
So there's something like, is Scotland a country? Well, yes, but it's also part of the United Kingdom. So there's so many kind of weird things.
I would say Scotland counts as a
Yeah.
country.
You can almost say if it's on this app or if it has its own emoji flag.
Yeah. I got a thing for Viking culture. How's
Well, when I was doing my research for everything, you research Italy and it's like, come here for the food, come here for the history. London, come for this monument, this monument. But every time I was researching the Scandinavian countries, it's come here, we're the happiest people in the world. Come here. We have socialism and free healthcare and free college, and all these unique aspects of that. That was a whole different, like almost everything that I read was come here for these amazing experiences, but also beautiful outdoors. The outdoors in Iceland's like another planet.
really?
Gullfoss Waterfall is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I walked out there, and
Is this when I have a feeling like we all went to go see Rogue One?
oh,
And like we're like, where's Randall? And like, oh, he's in Iceland.
I was in Iceland. Yeah.
Iceland, and like you walked like in a
I walked a
rainstorm
long way.
to a theater.
The worst thing I do when I travel is I'm that guy who's like, oh, it's right here. We'll just walk. So that's why I travel solo, because no one wants to walk with me.
Randall, it's 10 miles away.
I'll be like, oh, it's just right. Well, I also, part of what I straight enjoy walking and just being a local and looking. The number one highlight of every trip that I get is that people ask me for directions because they think I'm a local. Love it. Standing outside the Tube in London, and a girl comes up, she says, which way to whatever street? And I go, oh, you just jump on the Circle Line, it's right there. And then she looked at me, she goes, hold up. You're not from here? I go, no, I'm just visiting. She goes, I've lived here 20 years. How do you know that? And then, this person in Italy asked me for directions. I just love being a local. So I love just walking around. But yes, I walked a long time in Iceland. I wanted to watch that Star Wars, so I ended up watching it at night. I booked it, unfortunately, in 3D because I didn't know the difference as I'm booking it on my phone. Icelandic words, if you've never seen, are just consonants, very few vowels. And then they had an intermission. I think I might have told you this. You watched it, and then halfway through, they just stop, get up, everybody goes for a smoke break, and more candy, more food. And I had the hardest time even finding like the 3D glasses. It was in English and with Icelandic subtitles, but yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
And that was because I was going to see it no matter what, but it was also because I was on my way to Vic Beach, which is a black sand beach, and halfway through they're like, we got to turn around. The winds are too high. Got to turn around. So I had nothing planned, and kind of bummed that Vic Beach is this beautiful black sand beach. Did
you ever get to it?
I have not yet. And that's another valuable lesson I learned, is that you're not going to see it all, so don't try.
All right.
And by not seeing it all, it gives you a reason to go back. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, I got to go back to see Vic Beach. I got to go back to see Gullfoss Waterfall again, Blue Lagoon again. Iceland's crazy.
Your book. Let's get into it a little bit. When did you decide, and why did you decide to write this book?
I've always had a desire to write a book. I started and didn't finish a self-help book a long time ago. So I think I've always had a desire. I think of just a life goal of finishing a book. I travel with you all day, and like it's the number one thing. I look and I research travel every single day, not because of a book, because I like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So things. I remember when I first started traveling solo, I would lie.
wait, like you'd become a different person?
No.
Like,
Well, that's another thing. I might get to that one day, but I might do your role, saying to go different first name. When I first started traveling solo, I would lie to people because I was embarrassed. So they're like, "Oh, you're here by yourself?" I go, "Oh, yeah. Well, my buddy's he'll be here in a minute, or my buddy's on a different train, or my buddy's flying it." I would just lie. I was embarrassed by it, and I would always, I don't know, I was just kind of insecure.
why?
I don't know, just immature, insecure. In general, that's a general answer. And at the time, I just was uncomfortable with it. This was 5 or 6 years ago.
Was it maybe like a fear thing? Like, I don't want to be taken advantage of because I'm by myself?
Maybe 5% of it, but I think most of it was probably just insecurity, immaturity, and just not thinking it was. It's like the first time I went to the movie by myself, and I think now it's common, but the very first time you go to the movie by yourself, for me, it was, hat on low. I probably had the hoodie up. I didn't want anybody to know that I was the dude going by himself who had no friends.
I love it. I would sit with my feet up and I would read a book.
Hey, I fully agree with that now, but there's a growth that took. Like at first, I was not like that, and at first, I was embarrassed by it. Now, hell yeah, I'll take a book. I've done this. This is cool. I'm the coolest. Now it's almost opposite. Now I'm proud to do it by myself because as I've gone places, people have been like, "Hold up, you're by yourself," and you can just see them asking questions, and I realize that now people actually admire it.
Yeah.
And I get most of the time people say, "Oh, I would never do that," or "I could never do that," or "I wouldn't know how to do that." So then it went from me being embarrassed to then a badge of honor. And like, if you're gonna be, I read somewhere in a book recently, I forget which book it was, but just a simple quote: "Solitary people are never lonely." And I went from being insecure about what everybody looking at me. No one cares, no one notices, and now I'm like, hell yeah, I'm by myself. You know, I'm doing things that I take pride in doing things other people can't or don't want to do, and now I'm like, hell yeah, I'm traveling by myself, and this is like the 20th time I've done it by myself internationally. So
I think it's rad. What is that thing that like that ritual that breaks you down and when you come out the other side, whether people can see it or not, you are a completely different changed person. And after talking with JP, like travel.
Yeah,
that is the greatest
and that's part of what I've discussed in some of the earlier chapters is that not only do I love doing it, but everybody should do it. And I'll get someone to say, well, I got a family or this and that. Okay, well, fine. Take a day trip by yourself. Like if you can't, I understand if you can't go off to Iceland tomorrow for a week or whatever. I understand that. But take a day and go to Sedona by yourself and just hike by yourself, or take a day and drive to San Diego, whatever. Being by yourself, it's just amazing, especially if the place is a completely different culture, they speak a different language. I was lost in Venice. Venice is one of the most beautiful and amazing cities.
It's a good place to be lost in.
It's tied, Paris and Venice are my all-time favorite cities. I get arrogant and I don't like to look at directions and all that. And even with directions, even with Wi-Fi and everything on your phone, Europe is a whole different ballgame because it will say take a left on the next street, and you'll look and it's like an alley, and you're like, is that a street or an alley? And then you just don't know. In Venice, we're blessed here in Arizona with the grid system. Venice, it's almost like the maze in Westworld, with everything.
Circles.
But then on top of that, there's water mixed in. So you walk and you can't just go straight. You have to. So I was lost and I was looking. I was just like, you know what? I'll go any place with a light because there's probably, if it's lit, then that means it's probably the way. And then I did that, and I ended up coming to a place where the land stopped and it was dark, and it was staring at Croatia. And then I'm like, okay, I'll walk back the other way. And I only had to go like a mile and a half walk. It was not a far walk. It took me an hour and a half, and at one point I screamed at the top of my lungs. I swear. I said, I'm lost. I need help, because I was so frustrated. And then
that's awesome.
And just your anxiety and everything was just so high. And finally I found a restaurant, and I walked in there, and I just pulled out the map, and I said, where are we? And I thought, we're here. And he's like, oh, we're right here. And I'm like, oh, I was exact opposite off of where we should have been. Had a meal there and then was able to get back. But then I sat there and I said, man, if I can get through another country in different language and make it back safe, like I can do anything. And there was like you said, it was that rite of passage of, well, heck yeah, bring on the next challenge. And another time I missed a flight because I was in the wrong terminal. In Europe, they don't put the gate up a lot. So in the United States, you get on a flight, and from the beginning, the gate is gate whatever, 3 hours away. Over there, they might not put it up for an hour. So I'm sitting and wait. An hour comes, nothing happens. An hour comes, nothing happens. It's like half hour, and I'm finally getting nervous. And I'm like, hey man, where's the flight to? It was actually going to Iceland from Stockholm. And he laughed. He goes, you're in the wrong terminal. Oh man, look, I run every day. I've done half marathons, but I have never been more exhausted sprinting through that terminal in dress shoes and. Again, I'm very fit, but I thought my heart was going to explode. I stopped, and I didn't make it. But again, you figure it out. When you're by yourself, you just have to grow up and figure it out. You can't call mom. You can't call dad. You can't do anything. You just have to figure it out. You got to grow up and be a man or a woman and just get it done. And if you don't, then what? So you don't have any options.
And also, like, and I'm assuming, just based on my own experiences, that you learn proper customs and you expand your level of awareness. Observe, integrate, adapt, like cultural customs in order to help you figure it out.
Which is part of the process. I talk a lot about the trip's one thing, enjoy that, but I sincerely hope you enjoy the process of planning too. And only boring people are bored.
Yeah, totally. And that's like one cliche,
and the other cliche
totally
is
true.
Is to be interesting, you got to be interested.
Yeah. But here you are. How many masters do you have?
2 masters, 4 degrees overall.
Yeah. You have work ethic, and you have traveled almost 50% of this country alone, and are well on your way to like experiencing as much as you can of the world. You've coached football, high school football.
Over 10 years of coaching high school football, obviously doing the music thing for over 10 years. But not one of them, I don't consider myself a coach or a DJ or a college professor, which I was able to do for a little bit. I don't want one thing to ever define me. And I want to be, 200 years old sitting around just telling story after story. And I want to, the best thing about travel too is you're not going to see it all. So it's a great goal that's always hanging over you to strive for it, but also knowing you never will reach it. And then by also understanding that you never will reach it, I love having it as a goal of like, I want to see everything in the world, but I also know I'm not going to. So being able to understand you're not going to reach that goal, but still strive for it, it's liberating. It's also peaceful. It's also a reason to wake up every day. It's all of the above.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just want to keep doing it. I want to just be interesting and know everything, a little bit about everything.
Do you have in a way, like you say, like, oh, I started a self-help book that I didn't finish, but like knowing your mentality, knowing that it's also like traveling as a rite of passage, in a way, this book about travel is also a self-help book.
Yes.
Because you're laying out like this contemporary ritual that hasn't been mythologized yet.
Yeah, I agree. And
you could be the leader of a cult soon. We just need to get that book out.
And then find a great flavor of Kool-Aid, right? So it's, you know, I mean, and maybe I'm writing it for myself. And
well, I think you should.
You know, I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's gonna be, you know, and I'm halfway finished. It's been great. The research has been fun, learning new things. There's just learning about studies, other books, reading books on just. There's a book by Susan Cain called Quiet, which talks about why extroverts are loved, but the beauty of being an introvert. And I'm more of an introvert than I am an extrovert, surprisingly, and so there's a little bit of that into it. So
yeah, that makes sense too. Do you have a name for it?
I don't have the second part finalized, but it's just going to be Smart and Solo, and then the next tagline will be the art of traveling solo or how to travel solo efficiently, something like that. I haven't quite mastered that part, but it's Smart and Solo. Just bam, real quick.
I like the
it was
concept
solo
of it,
before.
art.
What's that? The art? Like
yeah,
that?
because I mean, it is an art form.
Yeah. The first half will be kind of why, and then, or has been why, and then the last half is how. And there'll be some basic things in there as far as talking about just different airports. You know, a year ago today, I'd never been on a tarmac before. You ever been on a tarmac?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you walk to like one of those little small planes.
Yeah. I'd never been on a year ago. Or you know, most places in the United States have the Sky Gate that goes out there, but in a lot of European places they don't. It's one of the genius things that European countries do. They let you on from the back and the front.
Right,
so whereas in the United States, you got on the Sky Gate, you can only get on front, and you walk down that, you're like, cool, you don't see anybody, and then it just abruptly stops, bottlenecks getting on. But in Europe, they let you on, so you walk onto the tarmac, and you go in the front or the back door, and it's just so much easier.
I love walking out there, and you're like, wait a minute, why is there duct tape on that rudder?
Hey, my favorite one that I ever saw that made me flinch a little bit was flying to Minneapolis a couple years ago. Another great town. A little bit like Portland as far as just a good vibe.
Very arty. It seems like it has to be. If it gets as cold as it does.
They have skywalks between the buildings. That is genius.
Really?
So I was bundled up. The guys are walking around in shorts because they never go outside. They're just in these skywalks that go between it.
That's
and the
brilliant.
skywalks double as like almost going through like a mall. So they'll have it where you go from building A to building B, but then they'll have little food things.
It seems like it's a town that has a lot of like artistic culture, a lot of things to do because you have to.
Yeah.
You can't do it all outside. So
I was on that plane and I go, using the bathroom there, and there was an ashtray in there, and I'm like, how old is this plane that there's an ashtray on it? I can't believe as humans we thought that was a smart idea. Like, let's let people smoke on planes and then just refilter that air. I haven't seen duct tape, but I've seen some crazy things. Like in Budapest, they keep you in like a warehouse as like a holding cell almost in between. So you get out of the airport and then you walk onto the tarmac into this building, and it's a warehouse, and there's like 5 or 6 pens where one airline is each one, and then you walk out onto it. And
I remember, so like when Sharon lived back in New York, and I would always fly into Philly, and she wasn't in the city. She was like near Poughkeepsie.
Okay.
So I'd fly into the city, and then I'd have to get on this is where I'd walk the tarmac, get on the small plane with the propellers and all that
the
shit.
propeller this year too.
And fly into Newburgh International Airport, which is like a little tiny airport. And so she never had to do that.
Yeah.
She would always like usually drive to her parents' house in Philly and then fly out of there. When we were coming back from Portland, the first plane that we got on went from Portland to Seattle, and then Seattle to back to Phoenix, and we had to get on one of those planes. And she's afraid of heights, and they didn't have the things to shut to close the windows, so I just had to bust out the iPad and watch this.
Wow. Yeah, the propeller is something else because I flew from out of Paris, where a whole nother story, where I lost my passport in Paris, and I flew there to Dusseldorf, and it was on a propeller plane, and it was a new plane, but it sounded like a Honda Civic or something, or a Prius, and it was loud and it was shaky and it was cool. I was a little creeped out, but I don't get too much anxiety flying anymore.
When you fly over the ocean, when you're on those extended flights, are those planes just like designed a little bit bigger? Because I can't imagine being on. Okay,
so. Which is when you're getting your flight, you need to look to see what type of plane it is. And Norwegian Airlines, it's my favorite airline. You get on the flight for Norwegian Air to go somewhere. And there's a hype video of the plane. I swear to you, this is true. Find it on. I'll have to send it to you later. It's a 787 Dreamliner hype video. So 5 minutes before anything happens, they just hype up. It's like a N1 mixtape hype up of a plane. And so you were talking about pulling the shutter down. They don't even have that. They don't have the shutter on the windows. They have a button that dims it. So you select your dimness on there. They have, all these movies. It's like direct.
It's like a digital window.
It's a digital window. They have it's fantastic air, and it's crazy because they're still kind of a younger airline in popularity. And most of the time I fly, they're half full. I flew from Stockholm to Oakland. My flight was half full. It was wonderful. And on that 787 hype, watched a lot of movies. International flights are great. I love them. I love them.
Kick back. I kick back
because I am constantly on the go. I don't own a TV. I got rid of my TV, so I don't ever just sit and watch TV. So for me, that 8-hour flight across, and I've got 60 movies to choose from or TV shows. I'm like, hell yeah, that's like me going on the couch on a Sunday. That's the equivalent of it. I don't watch movies or anything, and then all of a sudden for like one 8-hour flight, I can just go in and just be a derelict and just order food. You can order food and drinks. I get a little wine, chicken sandwiches. You're sitting there and it's awesome. I love it. I love that as much as I love, not as much as I love the travel part, but it's an equally satisfying experience.
Like, I wish I could find a hotel that's as good as Norwegian Airlines.
Well, hotel, I'm the exact opposite, man. Hotel, like I've stayed at a nice hotel. You think it's something like Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, expensive night. And then I've also stayed at a $10 hostel. And you know what? The sleep is the same.
Yeah.
Like, yes, hostels are loud, but expensive hotel or hostel and save all your money.
Yeah.
Have you stayed at a hostel before?
No.
They're a trip, it'd just be a room with just bunk beds. Yeah, they come with lockers so you can store all your stuff. Worst part, I think, is it's loud and you got people coming in at different times. So you can't really sleep in because everybody's zipping up bags and doing this. You got to share a bathroom. But look, do I want to share a bathroom? And do I want my own bed? I would love that. But you learn to just give up a few things. And hey, I'm willing to share a bathroom if it means it's $10.
Yeah.
When I was in Amsterdam.
Well, $10, that's a steal. When all you want is a place to
when everything else is like $100. I was in there during. I was in Amsterdam to go look at the Keukenhof tulip theme park for flowers, and it was awesome, by the way. Every hotel was booked, so the hostel I stayed at, $10, $12, and first night there. Meet some Australians. Again, you're here by yourself, and I'm like, yeah. So they're like, well, look, come with us. We're going to the pub, and at first it might seem awkward, but there's no way to make better friends when you're walking with to ease the tension. Anyone listen? Follow this sentence. You just say this: I got the first round, and after that, it was set. I bought the first round at the first pub we went to, and then we were like best friends for the time. Never seen him, never talked to him since. But for that day, I had people to hang out with from Australia, and it was great. And that was the beauty of staying at a hostel.
That's an important lesson too. Is that if you feel like and you even said that you're a little bit more of an introvert than an extrovert. But you found a way to connect with other people strangers. So what? Besides, I have like an actual list of questions. It's kind of like the Actors Studio.
Okay.
But before that, what is besides getting comfortable with the idea that you're not going to see everything? What is another? I won't say the most, but what is another very valuable lesson to have and to know when you're traveling?
I think it would be prior is just having that zest for doing it and that wanting to learn is essential. But I also don't think like if you don't have that, you're not going to be listening to what I'm saying anyway. Like if you're not curious you need to be curious, and you got to be interested in life. Knowing that things are out of your control, and when they are, when I missed that flight in Stockholm, it's my fault. So no one to blame. So I was like, and you just rebound from it and go on. So I think lessons are just patience and understand. Another time we were everybody's hustling. I can't stand when everybody's trying to go on the same flight and they're cutting each other and trying to get in front. And I'm like, man, we're all going to the same place. Like relax and just enjoying it and just
right on. What's your favorite book?
The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and then The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna.
So those are your favorite books. Okay.
Those are they're equal. They're tied. They're just. Kristen Hanna's Nightingale is the only book I've ever read where I would knock out 50 pages and then purposely stop. Whereas a Dan Brown book, I remember being at work and I got to get home to finish Da Vinci Code. But Kristen Hanna I would read my 20 pages, whatever it was, and then I would put it away and be like, I'm saving it for tomorrow. Like, I did not want to finish it. It's just so amazing.
Right on. When you walk out that door today, would Paris be the one place that you would go to, or would you go to like another? Is it what's the one place right now? If you walked out that door, you could be there that you haven't been to.
That I haven't been to?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scheduled to go to Scotland, so I'm going to Edinburgh. I'm going out to Loch Ness. Yeah. So in my research, I just watched Rob Roy, and he's in the Highlands, and the Highlands are just epically beautiful. So I'm going to start in London, go see me aunt, uncle, and then go up to Edinburgh, and then go to the Highlands and go to see Glencoe and Loch Ness, and then come back down to London, where I'm going to go see the Harry Potter musical in London. So that's the next place. But yeah, of any city, if I could put myself, it'd be Paris.
If you have a chance to see a crop circle,
I wonder where they're still at. I wonder. Oh, I forgot. That's actually how I'm starting the trip. I'm going to Stonehenge, starting off.
Yeah.
So the very first thing I'm doing is going to Stonehenge. I'm doing that in Stonehenge and that in Loch Ness, and within 2 days, that's.
And lastly, give us your favorite quote, or one that you use a lot.
Oh man. Quotes. I start my day by. Reading a quote book. It's a quote per day. I think you live by know thyself. I know that. I send myself quotes during the day. I have this. So as you see, like on my calendar, those are all the things, and most of these are quotes and reminders.
How far out do you plan these?
Well, I just set them on a daily. What I did was a long time ago. By the way, this is the nerdiest thing I do, and it's the most obsessive compulsive thing I do. A long time ago, working for the city of Scottsdale, I heard people reading their horoscopes, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm having a 5-star day. Oh, I'm only having a 4-star day." And it was someone else saying, "Oh, you having a 5-star day. Ask for that promotion." Stupid things that come along with it. And I'm sitting back in the office, and I just roll my eyes like, "Huh?" Like, people believe this stuff. So what I did was, back in the day, using my Franklin Covey planner, on the first of the month, I would write my horoscope for the entire month. So I would. So
you're also an armchair astrologist.
I am. So I would then write my horoscope. So then when I would then come to August 20th, I would open my planner and I would read my horoscope. I'm like, oh, cool. So what that now, I have gone
5-star day.
I have gone digital, and my horoscope comes up every day. And I will have a 5-star day. That's where you know me from back in the day, doing like the 5-star thing. I have 5 stars tattooed on my arm. Like, I am having a 5-star day as well. So quotes get sent to me. My horoscope gets sent to me. My self-created horoscope. Quote from The Nightingale. The context was the value of forgetting and the lure of reinvention. And then after that, I just wrote, why not you? And I just think that we can any day, if we're not liking what we're doing in life, tomorrow you can wake up and stop it and change it. And why not? And why can't you just change who you want to be and just drop a habit, add a positive habit, and just reinvent yourself? We have the power. Viktor Frankl talks about, in Man's Search for Meaning, one of my other favorite books, we have the power to just change who we want to be tomorrow. That, I live by. Another quote that I had in my email for the longest time was, even if I knew tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree, by Martin Luther. And everything in moderation, including moderation, is another silly quote that I live by, because it's how I'm a sim character. Everything in moderation, including. So those are some of the ones that whether or not they're my favorite characters, they govern my life on a daily basis.
Right on.
Be the whole bit.
Well, Mr. Green, I'm inspired by you.
I'm inspired by you, man. I like coming here.
I appreciate it. We see each other few and far between, but it's always excellent. And,
yeah, I agree.
And I learn a lot from you.
Yeah, you've always motivated me as well. I think again, and that like that Venn diagram, the things that we do have in common are the most important things in life. I think we both have a desire to learn and explore and think. I think that might be that all. Above all, we both think. Jim Valvano said a full day is to laugh and to cry and to think. And he said that's a heck of a day. And most people don't just think. And I know that you're a thinker, and you've always inspired me and motivated me. And I will come back and talk when the book is finished.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Randall Green for coming on and talking about your journey, your traveling, working on your book. Randall's coming back once his book is done. He's almost finished. As soon as it's done and ready for print, he's going to come back. We're going to talk a lot more about it. So we'll see you in 2019. Until then, know thyself.